Chris here with ASUS's new 2023 Vivobook Pro 15 OLED. This model here can be configured with up to an RTX 4060 for its dedicated GPU. And my model here has the RTX 3050. Now, the CPU, you can figure that up to a Core i9, the 13900H. But I have with this one, the 13620H. So it has a max turbo of 4.9 gigahertz and 10 cores with this model. For RAM, 16 gigabytes is my model, and you can also configure that up to 32 gigabytes. And I have 2 terabytes of storage that is in RAID 0. Now this model here only weighs about 1.8 kilos. The 16-inch version is about 1.9, and it's got a stunning OLED screen, 600 nits, 15.6 inches, 16:9 aspect ratio, and a resolution of 2880 by 1620. On board, it does have a 70 watt-hour battery and Wi-Fi 6E. The Vivobook Pro 15 does weigh 1.76 kilos, and if we add our power cable and the 150 watt power supply, it brings up our total travel weight then to 2.26 kilos for a 15.6 inch laptop. It's not too bad. So the lid here is made out of alloy. So we've got a metal lid that does, yes, pick up fingerprints. I've intentionally not wiped this down. I've been using it now for about a week, and this is what it's going to end up like. You can see the smudges everywhere. So it's a laptop that you'll be wiping it down quite frequently if you don't want it to look like this. So they've got this raised up little logo here, something a little bit different. And opening it up, you can do it one-handed, yes. There we go, it is open, and our keyboard. Now they do have their antimicrobial guard, they call it, on the top here. So that's going to kill almost all of the bacterias. And I guess it's a good thing to have, so you're constantly typing and touching your keyboard, aren't you? So it's good it's there. Touchpad, nice and large, and no issues with it at all. It's a very good touchpad, and even finer movements, it doesn't jump all around the cursor. So sensitivity is good, and I do not find it annoying. I don't need to plug in a mouse. I'm happy to actually use it, and I'm not much of a touchpad person. So number pad key here. Power button location, I would like to see this up here. I really like it when it's away from the keyboard, but I haven't accidentally triggered it. It's a little harder to press, and yes, it does have a built-in fingerprint reader, so you can just log in using that if you wanted to, instead of keying in your passwords and whatnot. Now, typing on this keyboard, good. There is very little flex. 1.4 millimeters of travel. They have a slight inwards curve to them, these keycaps, and overall, very nice. They are backlit keys too. And I'm not really doing it justice at the moment. It's got 3 different levels. This is it in its maximum level, and it does light up and illuminate everything here. So there is no RGB. It's just this simple white light, which is fine because this is not a gaming laptop. And then the underside, we've got 2 feet at the front, rubber feet, and a large one at the rear. And this is all our intake vent here. So the fans inside are going to suck in the cool air, and then they blow that hot air from 3 places, 3 vents. So here, here, and here. Now we do have our downwards firing Harman Kardon speakers. I'll give you a sample of them now. 90 Hz refresh rate, 2.8K resolution, touch support. And because it's a flip model, you can convert this from being a Windows 11 laptop into then a Windows 11 tablet. Getting access to the internals is not too difficult. So we have all these T5 Torx screws around the outside. Loosen and remove all of those, and then you need to pry off this rear cover. Now, I did start around the top here. I felt that was the easiest. Work your way around and just be really careful. There's this plastic clips inside that could break. And once you've done all of that, then gently just pry off this plastic back here. And there we have our internals. Now, my model here does come with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, that's soldered onto the motherboard. However, we do have one DDR5 SODIMM slot right here. It's empty at the moment, and I could put in then an additional 16, and that would give me 32 in total. That's the maximum upgrade ability there with it. The other good news is, well, we do have the 2 SSDs. Now, they are Intel SSDs. They are their 670Ps. 1 terabyte, so I've got 2 terabyte ones here, and they are currently running in RAID 0. So those SSDs can be swapped out. You could just run there, both of them PCIe 4.0 slots. You could change them, and we do have an upgradable wireless card. This is from MediaTek, this one right here, and it's Wi-Fi 6E, so you could change that as well. Our battery, this is 70 watt hours, and I typically see around about 7.5 hours of just light use with the brightness set to 30%, Chrome tabs, things like that, nothing too strenuous. And we do have the dual copper transfer pipes here, so that's our cooling for, in my version, the RTX 3050, and then the Core i7-13650H. The laptop is 19 millimeters, the thickness of it, and on the left here you can see we've got a SD card slot. Now it's ultra high speed, 2 specs, so it's about 312 megabytes per second maximum transfers. 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. This is one of 3 exit vents here. And here we do have a USB 3.2 Gen 2, that one, or Gen 1 I think it is, sorry. And then on this side, we've got our DC in to charge. Gigabit LAN, HDMI 2.1, this is a USB 3.2 Gen 2, a 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, Thunderbolt port, and status LEDs. Then our display, it is absolutely stunning. So we have here an AMOLED that does have a 16:9 aspect ratio. With the Vivobook 16, you get the 16:10 aspect ratio, but because I've got the 15.6 inch model, it's 16:9. I don't mind it, but I would actually prefer the 16:10. Now, because we are running here 120 Hertz, everything is super fluid. Now, you can't see that really with my recording because I'm only recording at 30 frames per second here. But just let me tell you that it is real smooth, especially when you come from 60 to 120, you really do notice this difference. Now the resolution is 2880 by 1620, and I am running at the moment a 200% scaling. Now it's got 600 nits, the brightness, so it is a super bright screen, and I have of course measured the color here that it's able to produce. And being OLED, I am not surprised by these results, that they are very good, extremely good here. So sRGB, 100% coverage. We've got NTSC 95% coverage there. Adobe RGB 97%, so that is excellent. And then P3 color gamut, that's 100% there. So it's a screen that will not disappoint at all. Now there is no glass in front of it, so it's just the screen right here. A glossy, very reflective coating, yes, but you get those super deep blacks. The colors look really good. And everyone, I think, is going to love this display. I mean, I love OLED screens that much that I use one for my desktop, and I just cannot go back to IPS laptops anymore. If it's my own personal laptop, I've got to have OLED. So this Vivobook 15 Pro OLED does have here a webcam that is full HD. Now, we've got this little privacy shutter, which is great. So when you flick that to the left, you'll see that we've got the red here, so that's covered that webcam completely. It disables it too, and we have 3 microphones here. So I'll give you a sample now of what to expect out of this full HD webcam and those mics. It is a 1080p 30 frames per second webcam, and it looks a little bit grainy, and I've also noticed that the audio is not quite in sync properly, but the mics do sound good. They're quite sensitive. Now this Vivobook Pro 15 that I've got does come in different configurations. So my model here has the Core i7, the 13620H, and that can turbo up to 4.8 gigahertz. And this particular model that I've got has the RTX 3050 only, yes. But you can also get the RTX 4060 with its 8 gigabytes of RAM, would be a lot better. Now under the device manager here, just wanted to point out just a couple of things that you'll see here for our fingerprint reader. That is there an Aegis Tech touch fingerprint sensor, and our camera, well, it doesn't say anything else about it, but that's 1080p. The disk drive is listed as just simply RAID, of course, because that's the way it is configured, but they're 2 Intel drives, as I showed you when we looked at the internals. Now, just how fast are they? Well, here are the speeds. You know, they're not that amazing because you can get these kind of speeds just out of a single but very good and expensive PCIe 4.0 SSD, like say a Samsung 980 Pro. You'll be able to get even better write speeds than this. So it is good that we do have RAID and it's very fast, and we have 1.8 gigabytes free on first boot. Don't get me wrong, but it could be faster just having a faster single better drive, okay, than that Intel there. Sensors on board, well, there's just a head sensor, something else, you know, there's nothing really that interesting. The Wi-Fi card is this one, so it is Wi-Fi 6E, and it is their MT79002, and the signal strength has been fine, but I have noticed that it doesn't seem to be quite as good as the Intel AX211 that I had with their other ZenBook there. So looking at some benchmarks, so just run through a couple of these. I don't want to get too carried away here, but Firestrike Extreme does show us that the physics score is excellent for this chip, really good, and the graphics, no, that's quite low. If you're looking at this from a gaming laptop perspective, not wonderful. I recommend at least getting the 3060 with the 8 gigabytes of RAM and try to get a 4000 series, like the 4050, 4060 would be better. I recommend going for that model. Same with Time Spy here. So CPU score, great. Graphics score, yeah, not so wonderful there. And a Geekbench 6 does show us that it's a very potent chip indeed. Take a look at the single core score there, just over 2200. That's great. And multi-core score also really good. That is impressive. And Cinebench, of course, ran that. Cinebench R23, same kind of result here. Very strong performance here from the chip. The multi-core score is excellent. And in general, everything runs really fast, quick and snappy. And video playback, so decoding 4K, VP9, everything I've thrown at it, it all works just fine. There's no point in me showing that. This is the built-in software. So we do have McAfee that's down here that keeps nagging me about buying it, getting the full version. So I would just uninstall that. That is bloatware to me. But we do have this, which is MyASUS. Now, MyASUS has a lot of different settings in here that I'll just quickly run through. So battery care mode. We can enable this, so you limit the charging to 80%. That's great. Not all manufacturers do this. It's hard to believe, but they don't. So good to see it's there. Fan mode. Now, I've set the fan mode into performance, so it will be a little bit louder. Fan sample later on in the video, but it increases, of course, the performance, which is what I want here. And this is another thing that is really good to see, the MUX switch. So you can swap over between the discrete GPU, so in my case, the RTX 3050, you gain a little bit of performance doing so, having and disabling the Iris Xe graphics that comes with this, the integrated graphics, or you can put it back to the MS hybrid. So when it's in the hybrid mode, of course, that's best for battery saving. When I do my battery tests, I always put it into the hybrid mode because that's how you get the maximum life out of the battery, of course. Now you've got AI noise, microphone cancellation there. I really haven't touched too much of that. I've got it off at the moment just for my testing. Speaker as well, sound modes, okay, that's just an equalizer there, you can tweak that. Volume booster, that's what I will use for the audio sample. Did use that before, sorry. And then this is very important here, I love to see this. So they've got OLED care in here. So pixel refresh, pixel shift, automatically hide the taskbar, and then they have the transparency with the taskbar effect too as well. Now another one I recommend is screensaver. Set a screensaver for blank and put it at 1 minute. So as soon as you're not using the laptop, after 1 minute, the whole screen goes blank. It's really good on just stopping any possible burn-in. When I've got a desktop screen that's an LG CX, no burn-in after 2 years. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Depends on how you look after it. So flicker-free dimming, I've kept that at 100. I don't see any flicker at all, or banding. And you have the splendid color modes there. And just going down a little further here, just a couple other bits. Task first for the connectivity. And finally, I'll just scroll down right to the end here. We've got some options there for our backlit keyboard and function key lock. So very handy built-in software, and under customer support there, you can find your live updates, BIOS updates. I've already had 2 of them and just a recent one a couple of days ago. And let's run through now the thermal. So you can see that it did thermal throttle, got up to 94 degrees, the chipset. And what about our GPU? Scroll down here and take a look. So the GPU also gets a little warm, but it's not too bad. Oh, thermal limit. Oh, no, hang on. Hotspot getting up to 79 and 72, the GPU. So that's okay. And it pulls 65 watts. That's it. It's not a super powerful part there, the RTX 3050. Now the fan, you've probably been hearing that in the background. You might have thought that, oh, Chris has got really bad audio quality this time around. What's going on here? It's a bit of fan noise coming from the laptop. And I'll give you a sample now what it sounds like under full load. So this is gaming or Cinebench when it will sound like this. Now this is where you do notice the dedicated graphics, especially if you've got the RTX 4060 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So video editing, even though I've just got the base model of the GPU really for this, it's the RTX 3050, you do notice that the playback is very, very smooth here, and that's the CUDA cores. They are certainly helping out. So if I set the playback resolution here to full, I am not noticing
any drop frames. Editing 4K video, by the way, with Adobe Premiere Pro here. This is the latest version, latest update. So what I will do now is export this and see how long it's going to take. It should be a little bit faster than just simply integrated graphics. But because I've got it in the Mux mode, I believe that the integrated graphics is disabled, so I might not have access to that quick sync. It will be interesting. Now, I do use this YouTube preset. It's what I've always been using for years now, and a lot of people say, hey, it's not the most efficient, that you can do it even quicker, but that's what I've been using all this time, so that's why I do this for the comparison. So I will time it, of course, and just going to hit export. So it is 1 minute there of footage, and the timer has started. Okay, this is, wow, really just ripping through this. This is going to be faster than the ZenBook Flip 14 OLED that I've just reviewed too. A lot faster. Look at this. This is going to complete it in well under 20 seconds maybe. Yes. So you could say that was probably about 15 seconds. Really quick. That is impressive. Now the RTX 3050 might not be high end. In fact, it is very low end and it's only got the 6 gigabytes of RAM. But here, it's okay. Handling Cyberpunk 2077, 60 frames per second, 1080p. Medium settings, and look at all these pedestrians about. There's a lot to render, a lot going on, and it's okay. So it can do a bit of 1080p gaming on the side, but if you do intend to game a lot and you want higher visual settings, you want to use like ray tracing and things like that, this is where I recommend you go for the RTX 4060 model. Definitely that's the one you would go with, and I would personally pick that one over this model, but that's what I got sent. GTA 5 now, and I've got it set to the native screen resolution, so 2880 by 1620. And I've lowered the settings down a little bit with GTA 5, and I'm still not able to get 120 frames per second, which of course is the sweet spot. That's what you want with all gaming, really, because of the OLED screen. It's 120 Hertz. Now, this is still looking very good, really quite playable. I just need to lower down a few settings, and then of course, I will be able to game at 120 frames per second with GTA 5.
Overall, this is an excellent laptop. It ticks many boxes. The screen's the big one for me. Having that OLED, fantastic. Now, a bit of a tip here to increase the longevity of the screen to help get rid of any screen burn. I'm using a desktop, LG CX, since its release, and I have no screen burn. But what I do is a screensaver. Set it to 1 minute blank, okay? So if you step away from your computer, it's just going to turn on blank screen, okay? And then as soon as you come back to it, bang, it's up again. So you lose no time really, and it's going to help things. The performance from the GPU side of things, well, a little disappointing because I've got the low-end model here, the RTX 3050. As I mentioned probably about 3 times in the video, if you intend to do like heavy 3D work, your CAD work, or even video exporting, but very heavy stuff, and you intend to game a little bit, I would go for the 4060. RTX 4060 with its 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to be a lot more potent and better for future-proofing too in your investment here. Now, the model that I've got with the Core i7 with the 13628, very good performance from that 10-core chip. You could go to the 12-core chip. You could go with the, of course, the 13900H model if you need that extra performance. But honestly, I don't really think most people are going to be needing that. And battery life from the 70-watt-hour battery. Okay, only about 7.5 hours. That's the screen brightness I set to 30%. Chrome tabs, YouTube, a lot of YouTube, that kind of stuff. You should make it through a full day which isn't bad at all. And I like the fact that it's got Thunderbolt 4 on here. That's great to have, of course. We've got the SD card reader, another positive. Webcam has the shutter, another great thing too. Good backlit keyboard, good touchpad, all around, everything is excellent. There's just one minor complaint from me, and, well, 2. One is the fan noise. You do definitely hear it when you're pushing this system. You're going to hear that fan noise if you're in the performance mode, which you really do need to be in if you're going to be encoding video, gaming, anything really demanding. The other is the SSD speed for RAID 0 is a little disappointing. We've got PCIe 4.0 SSDs. They get those kind of figures with a single drive, not even in a RAID 0 configuration. That's a minor little nitpick there, but it's great to have the almost 2 terabytes of storage this model does have. So thank you so much for watching my review here of the ASUS ZenBook Pro 15 OLED.